New entry here, just recorded a Datanauts with Enrico Signoretti and, of course, Chris Wall. Chris put this show together, and we're talking about Enrico is the head of product strategy at OpenIO, which is a startup storage company. And I'd worked with Enrico in the past, speaking at one of his events at Tech Unplugged, and we got to talk about object storage, and I really have to spend some time learning some of the mechanics of object storage, particularly because I have run into several scale-out storage companies that who I believe universally are using object storage of some kind. And so I got to get a handle on some of that technology a bit better. Particularly the storage algorithms and methodologies that are used to distribute data in a redundant, resilient way across data centers and across geographies, actually, as Enrico brought out in the show. And man, I went on Amazon.com. Well, we're actually recording. I'm listening to Enrico talk and queuing up my next questions. And at the same time, because I apparently have attention deficit disorder, I'm looking on Amazon.com trying to find a good book on scale-out storage. And there's nothing there that looked good at all. It was kind of depressing. A lot of stuff on SAN, and I realize it's still a very viable technology. A lot of people are building fiber channel or increasing and growing their fiber channel environments, but it's not the cutting edge as such. Not that object storage is going to replace SAN. I mean, it's a different tool for a different application. As Enrico put it in the show, he made a big point about that the resiliency and redundancy functionality is built in to object storage, but it isn't the fastest way to get at the data necessarily, and it isn't the most efficient way to get at the data either, because that resiliency is built in. You end up with copies of the data, you have versioning options within the data, which means you're using an awful lot of disk to store this information, which again, Enrico put it, it's, you know, the object store world isn't like expensive flash storage. It's really living on cheap spindle, spinning rust, as my friend Greg has put it. And so in that sense, it's not like object storage is the only way to go. And by cutting edge, I don't mean, and it's going to replace your SAN some days. It's, again, different tool for a different purpose. It's just that SAN is so well known, fiber channel is so well established, and those designs and reference architectures seem to be studied and etc. Whereas scale-out storage and distributed storage and object stores and storage across the internet, and the ability to decouple the performance of storage from the usage of that storage is a different design methodology, and one that I think is a little more interesting, at least to me, from an architectural perspective, where we are looking at a public cloud, for example. And as I understand it, Dropbox is a public cloud, based tool, is using object storage. And if you were to, and I've seen blog posts on this, although I haven't read one recently, but if you were to actually do a packet analysis of Dropbox calling, making storage calls across the internet, what you would see is object store, and you would see, I want to say, REST calls, although to be fair, I'd have to look that up and actually verify my facts. And all of that is really, really interesting to me as enterprises begin to move further and further away from their resources in-house, and not necessarily housing things in their own data centers, but continually pushing services out to the public internet. How is that working, and how is that a viable service, and what sort of performance can you expect, and does that put architectural limitations on your applications because of the data locality problem, etc.? And then, of course, from a design perspective, if you are a supplier of storage, how do you have to design it so that your customers' data residing on the storage infrastructure you're providing, how is that protected? And then what are your costs as you consider that? It's all fascinating stuff, and darn it, there's not a book. I want a book. I couldn't find one, so maybe I'll go back and just see if I can find some solid storage blogs that explain some of these things, and maybe get enough to satisfy what I'm looking for. Although I know for the depth of knowledge I'm most keenly interested in, a book is really where it's going to be at.